Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdicus Ryan, and today I'm joined by
Dave.
Ted.
And today we talk about bringing the Olympic Games to your campaign.
If you want to jump down to the description below, you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter. It's a great way to get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So that's super timely that we have the Olympic Games starting in Rio right around now. And so it got me thinking to the idea of the Olympics were like a tradition in Greece, and you could bring in this idea of different nation states in your campaign world competing against each other and sort of form the traditions, figure out what the games are that are going to be happening. And it could be either your adventure could either be happening around all this, or your players could be competitors in these games.
So there's a couple sources out there right now that people could kind of look at for some ideas. Is Blood Bowl is one, right? And then
Blood Bowl.
Oh, Blood Bowl.
And Guild Ball.
And Guild Ball. I kind of just put them together. Yeah. But they're the two I was thinking of. And both of them are kind of like football-esque, right? Yeah. And then, I've just finished reading a series where, from the first book to the fifth book, and the fifth book actually revolved around this sport, but it continued to mention Glocko. It's something like Glocko is the name of the sport. I'm probably misremembering and getting it wrong, but they're always talking about it in the background, and the idea that Glocklin. So in the main character's favorite Glocklin team is like legendary in the sense that it's never won a game. Like thousands of years, they've never won. They're like undefeated in being defeated.
so they've never won a game.
Right, and like to the point where the banking system, is the race of bankers that actually creates the formula to price things and basically like the stock market per se, has actually incorporated that into their formula somehow. So like in book 5, weird things happen and they start winning games, and it's totally it threatens to throw off the economic balance of the galaxy.
Yeah. Wow. How is this game played?
So there's 8 lanes, and each lane is like a weight class, and each lane has a token, and you have to get your token from each of those lanes from one end of the field to the other. And people die in this game all the time. So it starts off at a 1 pound token and goes up to 600 pound token. And so like the idea is you either have to get the token out of bounds, or you have to hold it for 5 seconds and kill the token. So a lot of times, players are getting killed and maimed in order to, get to either deactivate the token or get it to score. So, and also each token has a different scoring range, and then also there's referees that'll put penalties into the game, and some of the penalties are actually points for the other team. Then there's also a player type called the hack, and it's highly frowned upon because basically it's like hockey where you always had you had someone that's like
the bully, the enforcer.
Yeah, basically. So it incorporates a lot of those kind of elements into the series, which it isn't until the 5th book that you actually really learn about the sport, because the main character ends up on a team, but it's always in the background. So it's kind of like a fun thing, and then eventually it becomes part of the story, which really speaks to what you're talking about of incorporating games into the game, and then how the players can interact with it. It could just be a background. It could be something the players occasionally bet on. It could be something the players just actually have their favorite teams and stuff.
Right. Well, in your Eberron game, a while back, there was some kind of race or some kind of game going on, and
a Race of the Four Winds, which is an event, a sporting event that happens every year.
And the players, we were contracted to go find something or fix something related to that. So
one of the mounts for the race was kidnapped.
So you
went missing. You
could have this type of situation happen if there's an event in such a way, all right, what happens if somebody had stolen those tokens, or someone had stolen the discus for those events? Okay, well, this can't go off because we need these specific ones who have passed tests or whatever you want to call
Well, in
it.
that example, actually, it's not really a spoiler because it happens almost immediately, but players are going missing.
Right.
And that's why he's hired to investigate. So it's the same thing. Something can be happening with the game. Someone thinks they're being rigged. Maybe you're being hired to rig a game.
Right. So I think the adventure is going to be a little bit more interesting if you can do a typical gaming adventure that's going around all of these things, and then perhaps the following chronological year the players could then be a part of it for some reason. So
Yeah. Well, and also too, you could steal events from right out of what's going on now.
Oh, absolutely.
There's civil unrest happening in Rio because you have basically the entire nation of Brazil is in recession, and $40 billion are spent on the games. So you have all the protester, you have people were trying to snuff out the Olympic torch and things like that, which is not really a thing that ever happens. So I think that didn't actually occur, but you could have factions that are refugees and this and that.
For example, they literally had police running ahead of the torchbearer and slamming people out of the way and stopping them by any means necessary. Some pretty brutal stuff. In some ways, it kind of makes me think of Scott's Shadowrun plot, where basically the Shadowrunners were trying to be hired to act as blockers for this ritual that they were trying to enact. Though it wasn't a sport, the principle is kind of the same.
Yep.
It's creating that sort of encounter with a different sort of agenda than just killing what your competition is. You could also take some things with just reskinning games that exist now, so you have skeet shooting or whatever, clay shooting. So maybe there's a target that archers could shoot at, and maybe the games doesn't actually care your means by taking out the targets, so you could use magic missile or Eldritch Blast to take out the targets, and maybe at a certain point 16 of them are fired into the air simultaneously, so all but the most masterful of archer or an arcane caster that can get a spell effect off that can hit them all in a certain range or whatever is going to be able to be super effective at it. So you can do some things that take into account magic and just superhuman ability that say a fighter who has action surge has.
What if you have a world that is magic is prevalent? Why wouldn't you have a wizard Olympics per se, right?
Yeah, arcane games.
Yeah, arcane games where you're okay, you have mage hand arm wrestling, which was introduced in Acquisitions Inc., which I think is hilarious. I love that concept.
Yeah.
The game that the event you just mentioned would be another great one. There could actually be a counter spelling tournament, and different things like that.
Well, I mean, that being said, you could games is a long festival. The Olympics goes on for quite a while, so you could literally have a thing that has activities that engage all the different classes in some way, shape, or form, or builds. You could have all the trickery ones. Maybe there's a lock picking competition or something like that.
I guess. That sounds a little weird, but yeah.
Not certain how many people want to advertise how good I am at
That sounds like a smaller event that only happens within the Thieves Guild.
The behind the scenes sort of thing.
But no, and also if you just look historically, there's always been different sports. If you look at the Scottish games, there's they do a bunch of weird stuff,
like caper toss.
Yeah, and then just medieval times. Europe, you had footlists and jousts and archery events, and I'm sure there was more than that. I don't think there's any history for any peoples that doesn't include some kind of wrestling or martial endeavor that's generally done, for combat, but also as a sport as well. So there's plenty to draw from, and I think we'd be a little remiss talking about this topic and not bringing up Quidditch.
Yeah.
Okay.
We might get our nerd card revoked, so that's another good example.
Except for a games is kind of like multiple things. Like Quidditch was like the Super Bowl, like equivalent of.
Well, yes, I mean, in the wizarding world,
that was their sport.
That was their sport.
But what are the games? If you're talking Olympics, what are the games made of? Sports.
All the
several.
sports.
I mean, but like you need several things. Whereas like that was a whole tournament structure leading up
Yeah,
to that one thing.
It's corollary
That's
to
how
it's-
the Olympics works too. Yes, there are tournaments leading up to the final.
I don't know about that because like you have the World Cup. The World Cup is not the same as Olympic soccer. Like they might share a lot of the same players, but I think they're slightly separate bodies. I'm not 100% on how it works. Like, I don't know. I don't know if like
Yeah, but
Team
the tournament
USA
structure is the same. It may not be as
all inclusive.
as all inclusive, but it's still a tournament structure. You're gonna have you're gonna have soccer teams playing each other until you get to the two best, and then you have one. It's still it doesn't matter. Like that's why it takes days and days and days to do the Olympics, and the events are going on together. And the televised what we see is the highlights or what they feel is important to that demographic.
Do you know there's Olympic like trampolining? Like there's trampoline.
I'm waiting for the jousting. I heard the rumor they're trying to get jousting in there.
Yeah.
Then I can finally live through my lifelong dream of being an Olympic jouster.
You want to be an Olympic jouster?
I'm definitely allergic to horses.
And you would also be an Olympic shish kebab because you get skewered through.
But whether you're talking about games or specific sports, it doesn't matter because they all include each other. Like I think we'd be remiss to not mention individual games.
Remiss. Reminisce is the thing.
Think back. I think we'd be remiss to not mention different games that people or different events that people can incorporate into these games.
And you could either take something like your own version of Quidditch and have it as part of something greater, or just try to incorporate, hey, this is the sport of our world, and they play it.
Like arcane Pokemon, you essentially both casters summon something and they have the things fight, and then whoever's things wins the fight, that person wins. Or maybe like the druid, like they wild shape into an elemental and the wizard sends something to fight on his behalf, and that's kind of how it works out. Could be a thing too.
Could certainly be.
So I guess with that stuff, it just depends on how magic intense your campaign
world
setting
is.
is. Otherwise, you're gonna have Otherwise, it's gonna be more mundane things.
I would agree. If you've got a high campaign or high magic campaign or high magic world, then yes, I feel that magic is going to be incorporated into a daily routine, or it's commonplace that people are like, oh yeah, there's magic. And then you could have those type of things. If magic is not routine, if it's not part of the typical people's lives, then you're going to stick to more mundane features.
I think you need to steal from Dresden Files. Was it arterite? What was the substance? The black substance that just disintegrates you? Book 5, right?
Yes.
Death masks. So basically, it's basically like a small sphere of annihilation that is controlled through the force of will, where they would just settle disputes by basically dueling with it, basically you're trying to use your will against their will to push it towards them.
Yes, you sit at a table. They open up the box. The thing automatically floats to a certain height, and somehow the box is created to be able to contain it. And there is always an abdicator who has the ability to control it, probably through some kind of item.
Amulet of the sphere,
or just being an awesome, super powerful spirit of intellect.
There's that as well, and you push it through your willpower, and as soon as it touches the other person, poof, they're gone.
They cease to exist.
And
argument settled.
Contest is over.
Yeah. So there's a little event for you to add to your game.
Yes, be the lone man standing, or lone person.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, so I won. I retire.
I can't remember what the item is called. I know it's as soon as we hit stop, I'm gonna remember.
Yeah, I feel like it was called like autorate or something like uterate or something.
Uterus.
Yeah, and I'm probably mispronouncing the word anyway.
That would be shocking if that were to happen.
So if you guys are big Dresden Files fans, I'm certain you're going to put it in the comments down below. While you're at it, like, share, even subscribe.
And if you have any other Olympic games to suggest for a high fantasy campaign setting, put them in the comments below.
Absolutely.
And check us out over on Patreon.
You can check us out and hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.